Maybe you felt it too, the quiet tug inside, that little voice whispering, it's okay to slow down. Maybe today feels heavy, or maybe you just woke up with a sense that something's missing, a restlessness you can't quite name. Maybe life's been moving too fast, and you've been holding so tightly to what you think should happen next, to what you think you should be. And it's okay if that feels exhausting. It's okay if you're tired of trying to control everything, tired of forcing outcomes, tired of asking yourself over and over if you're doing it right. Maybe right now, just for this moment, you can let it all rest. Maybe you can take a breath that's only yours. And maybe that's enough. Maybe this is the moment to notice yourself. Really notice. Maybe you've been running on autopilot, moving through life like it's one long to-do list. Maybe your mind is crowded with shoulds and musts, and maybe somewhere underneath all that noise, there's a small spark that's been waiting for you to listen. Maybe it's been whispering softly for weeks or years, quietly nudging you toward something gentle, something real, something simple. And maybe, just maybe, that spark is enough to start again. And maybe you don't have to fix everything. Maybe you don't have to figure out the big picture right now. Maybe it's okay to just be, to just let things unfold around you without trying to chase them, without trying to force them into shape. Maybe the world feels heavy, but maybe the heaviness doesn't have to be yours to carry. Maybe it's okay to set it down, just for a little while, just long enough to breathe. Maybe you notice your body now, how it feels when you stop trying so hard. Maybe the shoulders unclench a little. Maybe your chest softens. Maybe you feel the rhythm of your heartbeat, a reminder that you're alive, that you've made it this far, that every step you've taken matters, even if it didn't feel like it at the time. And maybe that's a small miracle in itself. And maybe as you listen to this, you can imagine life slowing down. Maybe the noise fades, maybe the pressure softens, maybe the constant rushing quiets for just a moment. Maybe in that space, you can hear the small, tender things, the birds outside your window, the sun brushing your skin, the quiet that lives between the breaths. And maybe if you're willing, you can step into that quiet and let it fill you. Let it remind you that life isn't always about fixing, achieving, or controlling. Maybe life is about noticing, about being present, about trusting yourself to navigate it, step by gentle step. Maybe it's okay if the feelings don't make sense. Maybe uncertainty is part of the journey. Maybe it's okay if you can't see the path yet. Maybe the most important thing is to keep moving slowly, to keep trusting that even when things feel unclear, even when the next step feels uncertain, you are moving forward. And maybe it's okay if it doesn't feel like progress every moment. Maybe progress is quiet. Maybe it's hidden in the small choices, the gentle pauses, the acts of showing up even when it's hard. Maybe life feels heavy because you've been carrying too much that isn't yours to carry. Maybe there's space now to release some of it. Maybe it's okay to let go of the weight of others' expectations, of the pressure to be perfect, of the endless comparisons. Maybe it's okay to let it fall away, piece by piece, and notice how light you feel when you finally do. And maybe that lightness is the first step toward the life you didn't know you were waiting for, toward the freedom that's already within you, quietly waiting. And maybe while you're here, maybe consider giving yourself permission to come back to this space whenever you need it. Maybe subscribe to this channel, not because you have to, but because of a gentle reminder that you're not alone in this journey. Maybe these words, these quiet moments, can be like a soft hand on your shoulder, a whisper telling you it's okay. It's okay to pause. It's okay to breathe. It's okay to be. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe it's not about pushing harder, not about doing more, not about reaching some far-off finish line. Maybe it's about noticing the small things, about softening, about trusting the unfolding, about letting yourself be human, tender, and enough. Maybe you don't have to have it all figured out. Maybe the path reveals itself when you stop forcing it, when you allow yourself to follow the whispers instead of the noise. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the real magic begins. Maybe you've noticed how the world keeps asking you to move faster, to do more, to always have an answer. Maybe it feels like everyone else has it all figured out, and maybe that thought sneaks in quietly, making you question yourself, your pace, your worth. But maybe it's okay to step aside from that noise for a while. Maybe it's okay to trust that your rhythm doesn't have to match anyone else's. Maybe the gentle, slow unfolding of your own journey is exactly what matters most. Maybe right now, you can take a moment to imagine your own safe space. Maybe it's a room where no one interrupts you. Maybe it's a quiet corner in the park. Maybe it's just a thought in your mind where everything feels soft and still. Maybe in that space, you can let yourself feel what you've been holding back. Maybe there are emotions you've tucked away, small aches you've ignored, little wishes you didn't dare to speak aloud. And maybe it's okay to bring them forward, to give them light, to let them breathe. Maybe it's okay if tears come. Maybe it's okay if you feel relief or sadness, or even joy that surprises you. Maybe emotions are like waves, and maybe it's okay to float with them, to let them pass through without holding on too tightly. Maybe in letting yourself feel you're not weak, you're human, and that's enough. Maybe it's okay to whisper to yourself, softly, "It's okay. I'm okay." And maybe if you do that often enough, it becomes easier to carry the days, even the ones that feel heavy. Maybe life has a way of asking us to surrender, to release control when we think we have to grip everything so tightly. Maybe there are things that will never go according to plan, and maybe it's okay. Maybe letting go doesn't mean giving up. Maybe letting go is trusting that something better is waiting for you, even if you can't see it yet. And maybe in that trust, in that quiet surrender, there's a kind of freedom you've been searching for all along. Maybe there's someone out there listening, someone who feels just like you, and maybe that thought is enough to remind you that you're not alone. Maybe this channel, maybe these words, maybe even this quiet voice in your ear is a gentle companion on your path. Maybe subscribing isn't just about videos. It's about remembering that someone, somewhere, is speaking softly to you, saying it's okay to pause, it's okay to breathe, it's okay to be exactly where you are. Maybe you notice your surroundings now, even just a little. Maybe the light through the window looks warmer. Maybe the sound of the wind or the faint hum of life outside feels comforting. Maybe these small things are reminders that beauty exists even in ordinary moments. Maybe noticing them is a practice, a way to anchor yourself when the world feels overwhelming. And maybe practicing that noticing slowly builds a quiet joy that no one can take away. Maybe it's okay to forgive yourself for the things you've struggled with, for the mistakes you've made, for the times you felt lost. Maybe every misstep has taught you something. Maybe every hard moment has shaped you. Maybe every heartbreak or setback has made your heart capable of tenderness, of empathy, of love. Maybe forgiving yourself softly, gently, is the first step toward healing, toward a life that feels lighter, more open, more yours. Maybe dreams feel far away sometimes, and maybe that's okay. Maybe they don't have to be achieved all at once. Maybe it's enough to imagine them, to whisper them into the quiet corners of your mind, to let them grow slowly like seeds beneath the soil. Maybe hope doesn't have to shout. It can be soft, subtle, steady, and maybe that quiet hope is exactly what carries you through. Maybe there's a rhythm in life that only you can feel, a rhythm that isn't rushed or forced. Maybe it's in the gentle steps you take each day, in the soft choices you make, in the moments when you pause and simply exist. Maybe noticing that rhythm, trusting it, moving with it, is the secret to living fully, quietly, beautifully. And maybe the more you allow yourself that space, the more you realize that life is already enough exactly as it is. Maybe now, as you listen, you can let yourself rest into this moment. Maybe you can close your eyes, breathe slowly, and just be. Maybe it's okay to let the world wait for a while, to put down the pressure, the expectations, the constant doing. Maybe it's okay to let yourself simply feel the quiet, to feel yourself, to remember that you're enough just as you are. And maybe that's the beginning of everything. The soft, tender start of living gently, deeply, fully. Maybe you've been walking through life trying to hold everything together, carrying all the pieces that once fell apart, believing that strength means never dropping anything. Maybe you've told yourself, I'll be okay when things calm down, when someone understands you, when you finally arrive somewhere that feels like peace. But maybe peace isn't a place you reach. Maybe it's something you slowly grow inside yourself. Maybe it's what happens when you stop trying to fix everything and start letting life unfold quietly in its own way. Maybe the truth is, you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to have it all figured out to belong. You don't need to earn rest or joy or stillness. They're already yours, waiting patiently inside you. Maybe there's a kind of grace in realizing that even when things don't go the way you hoped, you can still find meaning in the small, tender moments. The way sunlight lands on your hand, the sound of laughter in another room, the breath that rises and falls without asking for permission. Maybe that's what it means to live softly, to notice what's still good, even when life isn't easy. Maybe you've been running for so long that slowing down feels uncomfortable. Maybe silence scares you because it asks you to listen to your own voice, your own fears, your own truth. But maybe silence is not emptiness. Maybe it's a doorway to yourself. Maybe inside the quiet, you'll find the parts of you you've been too busy to hear. The gentle one who still believes in love. The brave one who still dares to try again. The tender one who still dreams even after heartbreak. Maybe listening to that voice is how you come home. Maybe home isn't a place or a person. Maybe home is the moment you realize you no longer need to prove anything. Maybe it's when you start to trust your own timing, your own way, your own enoughness. Maybe home is simply being at peace with who you are right now, in this breath. And maybe you don't have to chase it anymore. You just have to remember it was always within you. Maybe healing doesn't look the way you thought it would. Maybe it's messy. Maybe it's not all light and calm. It's crying in your car, laughing at midnight, forgiving someone who never said sorry, learning to say goodbye without hate, and learning to start again without fear. Maybe it's okay if you still stumble, if some days hurt more than others. Maybe healing isn't a straight line. It's a slow, beautiful returning to yourself. Maybe you can take a deep breath now, in and out, just that. Maybe you can feel your body settle a little, your heart soften. Maybe that's enough for today. Maybe this small act of being present is your quiet rebellion against a world that keeps asking you to rush, to be more, to do more. Maybe slowing down is your way of saying, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm enough. And maybe that's the real success, being able to sit in your own company and feel safe there. Maybe you don't need more validation, more noise, more chasing. Maybe all you've ever needed was this quiet awareness that you are already whole. Maybe that's the miracle, the one we overlook because it's too simple, too gentle, too human. If you're listening to this right now, maybe it's not by accident. Maybe something in you needed to hear these words, to feel this calm, to be reminded that you're not broken. Maybe you just needed someone to whisper, you're doing okay. And maybe in some strange way, that's what I'm here for, to remind you that no matter how far you wander, there's always a way back to yourself. Maybe before you go, you can take one small moment, just one, to say thank you to your heart for beating through the pain, for staying open even when it hurt, for guiding you here to this quiet pause. Maybe that's all it takes to start again with a little more gentleness, a little more grace. And maybe, if these words feel like a soft place to land, you'll stay a little longer. Maybe you'll join this little corner of peace we're building together. You can subscribe if you want. It's not about numbers. It's about connection, about remembering that we're all just humans trying to find light in the dark. Maybe you'll come back next time, and together, we'll keep exploring what it means to let go, to heal, and to live with a heart wide open. So maybe for now, just breathe. Maybe close your eyes. Maybe let yourself rest in this feeling for a little longer. You're safe here. You're enough here. And maybe, just maybe, this is where the healing begins. Maybe it's strange how healing never really arrives all at once. It doesn't show up with fireworks or big announcements. It slips in quietly, almost unnoticed, like morning light slowly filling a room that's been dark for too long. Maybe you wake up one day and realize that the things that used to break you don't hold the same power anymore. Maybe the pain is still there, but softer now, like an echo instead of a storm. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not the absence of what hurt you, but the presence of peace beside it. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign, for something to tell you that you're ready to start again. But maybe the sign is already here. Maybe it's the fact that you're still listening, still breathing, still trying. Maybe readiness isn't about being fearless. It's about moving forward even when you're still scared. Maybe courage isn't loud. Maybe it's a quiet choice to open your heart again, even after it's been bruised. Maybe there's a part of you that still doubts, that still whispers, what if I fail again? What if I lose it all? And maybe it's okay to feel that way. Maybe doubt is just a reminder that you care deeply about your life. Maybe you don't have to silence it. You can walk beside it. You can say, "It's okay, I hear you," and still take the next step anyway. Maybe that's what faith looks like in real life. Not certainty, but gentle persistence. Maybe love starts with the smallest gestures. The way you talk to yourself in hard moments. The way you choose to rest when you're tired. The way you decide to keep showing up for your own heart. Maybe love isn't something you have to chase. Maybe it's what grows naturally when you stop running from yourself. And maybe one day, without even realizing it, you'll look in the mirror and see not the mistakes, not the flaws, but the soft strength that's been quietly building inside you all along. Maybe that's when you start to see the beauty in everything again, the way the world keeps renewing itself, the way life continues no matter what has happened. Maybe you begin to trust that everything you've been through wasn't meant to destroy you, but to shape you into someone capable of deeper love, deeper peace, deeper understanding. Maybe life was never against you. Maybe it's been guiding you home the whole time, even through the storms. Maybe right now, you can take another deep breath, slow and easy. Feel it fill your chest, your ribs, your whole being. Let it out gently. Maybe in that breath, there's a message, the quiet truth that you are exactly where you need to be. Not behind, not late, not lost. Just here, learning, healing, becoming. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it's okay if you still don't know what comes next. Maybe uncertainty isn't something to fight. It's an invitation to trust life a little more. Maybe instead of trying to plan every step, you can start to listen, to feel, to follow what feels peaceful. Maybe that's the way forward, not control, but connection. And maybe When you look back one day, you'll see that everything that once felt like an ending was really a beginning. Maybe all the things you thought broke you were actually the things that opened you, widened your heart, made you real. Maybe every loss was a lesson in love. Maybe every goodbye was clearing space for something truer to arrive. Maybe every crack in your heart was just light trying to get in. If you stayed here listening, maybe it means something in these words feels like home. Maybe this small corner of quiet has become a safe space for you, just as it has for so many others. Maybe you'll stay, maybe you'll subscribe, maybe you'll let this space keep reminding you that you're not alone, that there's beauty in beginning again, no matter how many times you've fallen apart. So maybe tonight, before you sleep, you can whisper to yourself, "I'm proud of me." Maybe that's all you need to say, because you made it through another day. You kept going when it would have been easier to give up. You chose softness when the world told you to harden. Maybe that's something sacred. Maybe that's something worth celebrating. And as you close your eyes, maybe you can trust that tomorrow will take care of itself. Maybe you don't have to carry it all right now. Maybe for this moment, it's enough to simply rest, to let go, to breathe, to be. Maybe peace isn't something you chase. Maybe it's what finds you when you finally stop running. Maybe that's where we end for now, right here in this quiet space between one breath and the next. But don't go too far. There are more stories, more whispers, more moments waiting to be shared. So maybe before you leave, you can stay connected. Maybe subscribe. Maybe share this calm with someone who needs it. Maybe that's how we keep the light spreading, softly, slowly, from one heart to another. And maybe, just maybe, this is what it feels like to come home. Maybe this is where it all begins again. Not with noise or plans or promises, but with a breath. A slow, gentle, honest breath that whispers, "I made it here." Maybe that's the real miracle. The quiet one no one claps for. The simple act of still being here after everything. Maybe you don't even realize how far you've come, how much you've grown, how many invisible battles you've already won. And maybe right now, that's something worth honoring. Maybe healing was never about fixing yourself, because you were never truly broken. Maybe it was always about remembering what's already whole inside you, what's always been soft and steady beneath all the noise. Maybe it's that quiet truth you keep coming back to, that life keeps moving, that hearts keep mending, that even the darkest nights end when morning comes. Maybe you've learned that peace doesn't mean never feeling pain. It means no longer being afraid of it. Maybe the lessons came disguised as loss, as confusion, as waiting. Maybe every detour, every heartbreak, every silence was just another way the universe was guiding you home. Not to a place, not to another person, but to yourself. Maybe home is here, in this moment, in your own stillness. Maybe home is when you finally stop searching and start feeling the life that's already inside you. Maybe you spent years trying to be enough for everyone else, trying to fit in, to prove, to please, to hold yourself together even when you were falling apart inside. But maybe now you can put that down. Maybe you can stop fighting to be seen and start allowing yourself to simply be. Maybe you'll find that the world meets you more gently when you meet yourself that way first. Maybe you've noticed how everything changes when you stop forcing it, when you stop chasing what's not meant for you, when you stop clinging to what's already left. Maybe letting go isn't losing. Maybe it's making room for what's real. Maybe peace doesn't arrive through effort, but through surrender. That soft, quiet kind of trust that whispers, whatever happens, I'll be okay. Maybe you've been searching for meaning, wondering why things happen the way they did. And maybe there's no single answer. Maybe meaning isn't something you find. Maybe it's something you create. Maybe it's in how you show up for others, how you listen with your heart, how you choose kindness even when you're tired. Maybe it's in how you decide to keep loving the world, even when it doesn't always love you back. Maybe that's the secret, to live not perfectly but deeply, to live with tenderness, to let the small things matter. The smell of rain, the sound of someone laughing in another room, the way light rests on your skin. Maybe that's where the beauty hides, in the moments we almost overlook, in the breaths we take without thinking. Maybe life was never about getting somewhere. Maybe it was always about noticing where you already are. And maybe as you listen now, you can feel something shift. Maybe it's small, just a little warmth in your chest, a little loosening in your shoulders, a tiny spark of peace. That's how healing begins. Quietly, patiently, without trying too hard. Maybe you'll carry that feeling into tomorrow, not as a plan, but as a presence. Maybe that's enough. Maybe the space we share, these words, these moments, can keep reminding you that you're not alone, that there are others breathing through the same storms, finding the same light, listening to the same whisper that says, "You're enough. You always were." Maybe you'll stay connected. Maybe you'll subscribe. Not because you have to, but because you want a place to return to when the world gets too loud. A place that feels like calm, like understanding, like home. Maybe that's what this whole journey was about. Coming home to yourself, to your heart, to this quiet truth that you don't have to do anything more to be worthy of love. Maybe you can rest in that now. Maybe you can trust that from here, life will unfold gently, not perfectly, but beautifully. So maybe just before you go, take one more deep breath. Feel it fill you up. Let it out slowly. Maybe whisper it softly. I am here. I am enough. I am home. And maybe that's where we leave each other for now. Not at an ending, but a beginning, a soft one, where peace finally feels possible, and where you finally remember that you were never lost at all. Maybe as the story continues, it no longer feels like a story about pain. Maybe it's become something softer, something closer to a quiet celebration of being alive. Maybe you've noticed that healing doesn't mean you stop feeling. It just means your heart learns how to hold it all with gentleness. The ache, the laughter, the uncertainty, the hope. Maybe you're beginning to see that life isn't about escaping the dark, but learning to see the light that flickers inside it. Maybe there's something beautiful about how far you've come, not because everything's perfect now, but because you stayed. You kept waking up. You kept trying, even when no one was watching. Maybe it wasn't loud or dramatic. Maybe it was small and ordinary, like getting out of bed when it felt impossible, or choosing kindness when you could have turned cold. Maybe that's the kind of strength no one writes about, but it's the truest kind. Maybe it's the strength that has carried you all this time. Maybe there were nights when you couldn't see a way forward, when the silence felt heavier than words. But maybe now, looking back, you can see how every little moment brought you here, how every hurt quietly taught you how to love deeper, how every ending led you closer to yourself. Maybe you realize now that the universe never stopped holding you, even when you couldn't feel it. Maybe there's a peace that comes from no longer needing to know how everything will turn out. Maybe you can finally trust the unknown, not because it's safe, but because you've learned that you are. Maybe you've started to see that nothing beautiful ever grows from certainty. It grows from surrender, from faith, from that soft willingness to begin again, even when you don't know where it will lead. Maybe you can let the past rest now. Maybe you can forgive what didn't work, release what didn't stay, and bless it all for what it taught you. Maybe you can smile at the memories that once made you cry. Not because they stopped mattering, but because you finally understand they shaped you into someone wiser, kinder, and more alive. Maybe forgiveness isn't saying it was okay. Maybe it's just saying, I'm ready to stop carrying this now. Maybe you can open your hands again, unclench your heart a little. Maybe you can make space for the good that's waiting to find you, the unexpected kindness, the quiet joy, the love that doesn't rush or demand, but simply stays. Maybe it's already on its way, soft as sunlight, steady as breath. Maybe it's okay to want more calm, more laughter, more connection. But maybe it's also okay to have less for a while. Maybe less is what makes space for meaning. Maybe slowing down isn't falling behind. Maybe it's finally catching up to yourself. Maybe that's where you start to live, really live, not just in the doing, but in the being. Maybe one day you'll tell your story, not with tears, but with gratitude. Maybe you'll look back and whisper, I didn't know it then, but I was growing wings. Maybe every scar becomes a map of the places you've healed, a reminder that survival isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a gentler one. Maybe you're already writing that story now, just by being here, just by choosing to keep going. Maybe this space, this quiet voice, these words, has become a reminder of what you already knew deep down. That healing isn't somewhere out there. It's here. It's in you. It always has been. So maybe tonight or tomorrow, or whenever you find yourself needing a little light, you'll come back. Maybe you'll press play again. Let these words hold you for a while. Maybe you'll subscribe, not for the sake of following, but to stay connected to this space, to yourself, to the quiet truth that you are never alone in this journey. And maybe, before we go, you can take one last breath with me. In and out, softly. Maybe whisper it, just for you. I am still becoming. I am still learning. And that's enough. Because maybe that's a real ending. Not a finish line, but an opening. Maybe it's a gentle beginning of a life lived fully, bravely, and beautifully. One breath, one moment, one maybe at a time. Maybe the morning light feels different now. Maybe it's not brighter, not louder, just softer somehow, like the world has taken one deep breath with you. Maybe you wake up and, for the first time in a long time, you don't rush. You just lie there for a moment, letting the stillness settle. Maybe there's a peace that wasn't there before, not because everything's perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. Maybe you're starting to see beauty, not in what's missing, but in what remains. Maybe that's what rebirth really looks like. Not fireworks or grand beginnings, but a quiet choosing. Choosing to wake up again. Choosing to open your heart again. Choosing to live, even after everything. Maybe it's the courage to say, I'll try once more, even when life has been heavy. Maybe it's the softest form of strength, the kind that doesn't roar, the kind that simply stays. Maybe you step outside and notice the wind touching your face, the smell of earth after rain, the way the light bends through the trees. Maybe everything feels familiar and brand new at the same time. Maybe that's because you've changed, not into someone else, but into more of who you were meant to be. Maybe healing didn't give you a new life. Maybe it helped you fall in love with the one you already have. Maybe you start to smile more now, not because everything makes sense, but because you've made peace with not knowing. Maybe you realize that happiness isn't something to chase. It's something that arrives when you stop running, when you sit quietly inside your own skin and whisper, this is enough. I'm enough. Maybe joy isn't the loud, colorful explosion the world sells you. Maybe it's gentle, a cup of coffee in your hands, the warmth of someone's voice, the soft rhythm of your own breathing. Maybe you'll still have hard days. Maybe you'll still get lost sometimes. But maybe now you know how to find your way back, not by pushing harder, but by softening, by listening, by remembering that you survived worse and still found light. Maybe pain doesn't scare you the way it used to. Maybe you trust now that even when the night falls again, the morning will always return. Maybe love feels different too, calmer, truer, quieter. Maybe it's not about needing someone to fill your emptiness, but about sharing your fullness with someone who sees you clearly. Maybe it's learning that love isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's steady hands, kind eyes, quiet laughter. Maybe it's not about finding the one, but becoming the one who can love deeply, freely, gently. Maybe you realize that peace was never somewhere far away. It was always here, waiting for you to stop, to breathe, to listen. Maybe every storm was just leading you back to this place, to your own stillness, your own truth, your own heart. Maybe the whole time you weren't lost. You were just becoming. Maybe that's what life really is, a series of gentle beginnings. Maybe every time you break, you open. Every time you fall, you rise softer, wiser, more human. Maybe that's the quiet beauty of it all, that we never stop becoming, never stop learning how to love the world, even after it's broken our hearts. Maybe as you sit here listening, you can feel it, that small, sacred spark inside you that never went out. Maybe it's flickering brighter now. Maybe it's reminding you that you were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be real, alive, awake. Maybe that's what the world needs. Not more perfection, but more people who are simply present, honest, open. Maybe this is where the story pauses, not ends, just pauses. Maybe the journey keeps unfolding from here, quietly, naturally, beautifully. Maybe the space we share, these words, the stillness, can be your reminder when the world gets loud again. Maybe you'll come back. Maybe you'll stay connected. Maybe you'll subscribe so we can keep walking this path together. And maybe one day, when life feels heavy again, you'll remember this. You've already made it through everything you once thought you couldn't. You've already begun again many times over. And maybe, just maybe, that's all the proof you need that you can always begin again. So breathe, look at the light, feel the air move through your chest. Maybe whisper one last time, I am here, I am alive, I am enough. And maybe, my friend, that's not the end at all. Maybe that's the beginning of everything. Maybe this is where everything comes full circle. Maybe the end was never meant to be an ending at all. Just a gentle turning, a slow return to yourself. Maybe after all the storms and silences, after all the letting go and beginning again, you arrive at a kind of peace that doesn't ask for attention. It just exists, quiet and steady, like the heartbeat you barely noticed but couldn't live without. Maybe this is it, not the conclusion, but the calm that comes when you stop needing one. Maybe as you breathe right now, you can feel it. The way the air feels softer somehow, the way your body has learned to rest without asking for permission. Maybe it's taken years to get here, through all the noise and chaos and trying, but you did. You made it. You're here. Maybe that's all you ever needed. Not a destination, not a finish line, just this moment of being fully, gently alive. Maybe you can look back now without pain, only gratitude. Gratitude for what stayed. Gratitude for what left. Gratitude even for the moments that broke you, because maybe they were the ones that opened your heart the widest. Maybe every ending was really an invitation to soften, to surrender, to trust again. And maybe that's the quiet miracle of being human, that no matter how many times you're torn apart, you still keep loving, you still keep hoping, you still keep going. Maybe you understand now that peace doesn't come from the world around you. It grows from within, from the way you speak to yourself, the way you let go of what you can't change, the way you keep choosing kindness even when no one's watching. Maybe the real success, the real freedom, the real healing was never about becoming someone new. Maybe it was about remembering who you were before the world told you to be anything else. Maybe the future doesn't feel so heavy anymore. Maybe you've stopped needing to control it. Maybe you've learned that life has its own rhythm, its own timing, and always knows what it's doing, even when you don't. Maybe you finally learned to trust the pauses, the quiet spaces, the moments that don't look like progress but are quietly shaping you in ways you can't yet see. Maybe from here, life won't be perfect, but maybe it will be real. Maybe it will be full of small joys, slow mornings, laughter that finds you unexpectedly, love that stays without needing to be chased. Maybe you'll meet people who speak to your soul, moments that make you stop and breathe, days that remind you that being alive is still the most beautiful thing. Maybe now you can walk forward with an open heart, not guarded, not afraid, just open. Maybe you'll keep learning how to love softly, to live gently, to forgive quickly, to dream again without fear. Maybe every step you take will carry a quiet strength, not the kind that demands to be seen, but the kind that glows quietly from within. Maybe that's what this was all for, to bring you here, to this stillness, to this remembering. Maybe the point was never to arrive somewhere better, but to see that better was already within you. Maybe that's the secret, that peace was never lost, only forgotten. And maybe now, with each breath, you're remembering it again. So maybe, before we fade into silence, take one last breath with me. Let it in slowly. Let it out gently. Maybe feel the world soften around you for a moment. Maybe whisper one final time, I am here. I am whole. I am free. And maybe that's all there ever needed to be. If you've been here through this journey, through every word, every pause, every breath, thank you. Maybe you'll stay. Maybe you'll subscribe. Not because this is an ending, but because together we can keep exploring what it means to live softly in a world that moves too fast. Maybe next time we'll meet again in another whisper, another sunrise, another quiet reminder that it's okay to be human and it's okay to begin again. So for now, just breathe, rest, trust. The story isn't over. It's just beginning, softly, gently, beautifully. Maybe this is the quiet after the storm, not silence, but peace. Maybe the kind of peace that doesn't need to prove itself, that doesn't need to be loud or shining or perfect. Maybe it's just a soft knowing deep inside, I've made it through. You don't have to chase healing anymore. You don't have to force joy. You can just let life move the way it wants to, like waves coming and going, like breath entering and leaving your body. Maybe now you finally understand that healing isn't a straight path. It's not about fixing everything that ever went wrong. It's about learning to hold both the pain and the beauty at the same time, to smile even when something inside still aches a little. Maybe it's about realizing that you don't have to be fully healed to be worthy of love, or peace, or new beginnings. Maybe you never had to be anything other than exactly what you are, human, imperfect, enough. Maybe you're learning to love your scars now, the ones you used to hide. The ones that carry stories only you can tell. Maybe they're not reminders of pain anymore, but proof of strength. Quiet evidence that you survived what once tried to break you. Maybe you can finally look at yourself in the mirror and see not the things you lost, but the person you became. And maybe, just maybe, that person is someone you can start to love without conditions. Maybe the people who left weren't meant to stay. Maybe the moments that slipped away were never yours to keep. Maybe everything unfolded exactly how it was supposed to, not to hurt you, but to teach you how to let go with grace. And maybe in letting go, you created space for something new, something real, something softer to enter your life. Maybe you can see now that love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about setting things free and trusting that what's meant for you will find its way back in its own time, in its own gentle way. Maybe there's a quiet kind of happiness waiting for you now, the kind that doesn't need a reason. Maybe it shows up in the way sunlight hits your face in the morning, or in the way you laugh without realizing it. Maybe it's not about chasing big moments anymore, but about noticing the small ones, the ones that remind you life is still happening, still beautiful, still worth showing up for. And maybe even now, you can close your eyes and feel something, that tiny spark that's always been there, even when everything else went dark. Maybe that's your soul whispering, keep going. Maybe it's reminding you that no matter what, you've always had the light within you. You never lost it. You just forgot where to look. Maybe that's what surrender really means. Not giving up, but giving in. Trusting that life has a rhythm, that every ending leads to a new beginning, that you don't have to force what already meant for you. Maybe you're learning that control was never the answer. Softness was. And maybe, in learning to be soft, you become stronger than you've ever been. So maybe this is the part where you stop searching for what's next and start living what's here. Maybe you can rest your heart now, knowing that you don't need to earn peace. It's already yours. Maybe from here, your story won't be about what you've lost, but about everything you continue to find. Hope, love, stillness, yourself. And if this moment means something to you, maybe stay a while. Maybe hit subscribe, not because you have to, but because something in you knows this journey isn't over. There are still words to be whispered, still truths to be uncovered, still light to be found, in the quiet corners of your heart, in the gentle rhythm of your breath, in the simple beauty of being alive. Maybe that's what it's all about, just this breathing, being, becoming, over and over again. Maybe this is where the light finally breaks through, not in a loud, dramatic way, but softly, like morning sunlight seeping through your window after a long night. Maybe this is the part where you stop waiting for life to begin and realize it already has. Right here, right now, in this breath, in this quiet, in this moment that asks nothing from you except to be present. Maybe for the first time in a long while, you're not running, not chasing, not trying to fix or prove or become. You're just being, and maybe that's enough. Maybe you spent so long trying to be strong that you forgot how beautiful it feels to simply be gentle with yourself, with your story, with this messy, unpredictable, miraculous life. Maybe strength was never about holding everything together. Maybe it was about allowing yourself to fall apart and still believe you'll find your way back. Maybe you can see now that happiness isn't a place you arrive at. It's something that grows quietly when you stop searching for it. It's in the way you forgive yourself for what you didn't know then. It's in the way you stop comparing your path to someone else's. It's in the small, unnoticed moments. A deep breath that feels easier than yesterday. A laugh that doesn't feel forced. A morning that feels a little lighter. Maybe joy was never lost. Maybe it was just waiting for you to slow down long enough to notice it. Maybe life isn't asking you to have it all figured out. Maybe it's just asking you to trust. Trust that the timing you thought was wrong was actually perfect. Trust that the detours were really directions. Trust that the waiting wasn't empty, it was sacred. Maybe it's all been guiding you here, to this version of you, softer, wiser, more open to what could be. Maybe the next chapter doesn't need to be planned. Maybe it just needs to be lived. Maybe it's okay to not know what comes next, to walk forward anyway, to believe that something good is waiting just beyond the horizon. Maybe the universe isn't testing you. Maybe it's preparing you. Maybe every delay, every loss, every heartbreak, it all taught you how to receive what's meant for you with a fuller heart. And maybe now you can look forward with a quiet kind of courage, the kind that doesn't roar, but hums softly in your chest, whispering, "Keep going," the kind that believes in beginnings even after countless endings. Maybe that's who you become. Someone who no longer fears falling because you've learned how to rise again and again gracefully. Maybe you'll learn to build your days around peace instead of pressure. Maybe you'll stop trying to rush healing and let it unfold the way flowers bloom, slowly, naturally, beautifully. Maybe you'll forgive the past, release the need to rewrite it, and trust that everything that didn't work out was simply making room for something better. Maybe now, as you breathe and listen, you can feel it, that soft pulse of hope returning, like the sound of waves coming back to shore. Maybe this is your time to begin again, not as who you were, but as who you're becoming. And maybe the most powerful thing you can say is, "I'm still here, still open, still learning, still alive." And if these words found you in a quiet moment, maybe that means you were ready to hear them. So stay a little longer. Maybe subscribe if you'd like to keep walking this road together. Not because you need to, but because somewhere inside you know there's more to discover. More light, more softness, more you. Maybe life isn't about chasing some perfect ending. Maybe it's about learning to find magic in the middle of it all, right here where you are. Maybe this right now is your beginning. Maybe this is where we lay it all down. Everything we've carried, everything we've held on to for far too long. Maybe this is where we stop searching for meaning and start feeling it. Maybe after all the words and silences, all the questions and waiting, what remains isn't something you can explain. It's something you can only feel in the quiet rhythm of your heart. This, right here, is the part where the story doesn't end. It just changes shape. Because maybe healing isn't a destination, it's a rhythm, a slow dance between falling apart and coming together again. Maybe peace doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand revelations. Maybe it's just the moment you realize you don't need to fight yourself anymore. The moment you finally stop trying to rewrite what's already happened and instead whisper, "It's okay." Maybe that's the real freedom. Not having control, but being at peace with not needing it. Maybe all along, you were never lost. You were just walking through the spaces that would teach you who you really are. Every heartbreak was shaping your tenderness. Every disappointment was deepening your compassion. Every ending was preparing you to love in softer, truer ways. Maybe the pain wasn't punishment. Maybe it was passage, a bridge that carried you to the person you were meant to become. And maybe right now, in this stillness, you can feel it, that subtle shift in your soul, that whisper that says, "You're finally home." Not home as in a place or a person, but home as in yourself. The version of you that breathes a little deeper, that forgives a little easier, that doesn't need to prove or chase or control. The version of you that just exists, whole, human, and beautifully unfinished. Maybe this is the moment you finally understand that you don't need to have all the answers. Life was never about arriving somewhere perfect. It was always about becoming, about unfolding layer by layer, day by day. And maybe that's a miracle, that in a world that moves so fast, you've learned how to slow down. You've learned how to listen. You've learned how to just be. Maybe you're learning that there's beauty in the waiting, that the pauses aren't wasted, the quiet isn't empty, and the slow moments aren't meaningless. Maybe you're realizing that sometimes the universe works best when you stop trying to rush it, that maybe your timing isn't off. It's divine, that what's meant for you doesn't need to be forced. And what isn't meant for you will never truly stay, no matter how tightly you hold on. And maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson the whole journey was trying to teach you. To let go, but not give up. To trust, even when it doesn't make sense. To believe, even when it hurts. To keep showing up for your own heart, even when it feels heavy. Because maybe you were never meant to have it all figured out. You were meant to live, to breathe, to fall, to rise, to love again, to be here. Maybe this is a gentle truth you've been waiting to remember. That you are not broken. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be. Learning, healing, growing, becoming. And maybe life isn't about finding yourself, but remembering that you were never lost. You were always right here, under the noise, beneath the fear, quietly waiting for yourself to come home. So maybe, before we fade into silence, take one more breath with me. Inhale hope. Exhale everything that no longer belongs. Let your shoulders drop. Let your mind rest. Let the noise settle. Maybe feel how the world gets softer when you do. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, let yourself believe that everything is okay. Not perfect, but okay. And as this chapter closes, maybe it's not goodbye. Maybe it's just a pause, a soft promise that there's more to come. More stories, more light, more gentle reminders that you're not alone in any of this. Because somewhere, someone else is breathing through the same storms, finding the same quiet courage, whispering the same words. I'm still here. I'm still trying. So if you felt something in these words, if they touched something real inside you, maybe stay. Maybe subscribe. Not because you have to, but because this space is for you. A place where we can keep walking together through all the letting go and beginning again. A space for softness, for truth, for slow, honest healing. Because maybe this isn't the end. It's a beginning, the start of something real. Something you don't have to chase or earn or be ready for. Just something you can feel quietly, deeply, freely. So take your time. Breathe. Rest. Let life move through you the way it's meant to. And remember, no matter where you are, no matter how lost you feel, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. And maybe that's enough. If these words found you at the right time, then maybe that's no accident. Maybe you were meant to be here with me in this moment, remembering that it's okay to be human. It's okay to feel. It's okay to begin again. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, for breathing, for trusting. I'll see you soon. In the next story, the next sunrise, the next quiet reminder that life doesn't have to be loud to be beautiful. Until then, stay soft, stay kind, stay here. Because maybe the most beautiful thing you can ever do is simply keep showing up,